Hey guys, so today I'll be going through the whole human body, each muscle group, how they work, how they function, and how you're going to be able to isolate each one of them. So I'm starting from top to bottom. So we're going to start with the traps. The traps, as you can tell, is almost like a triangle. So it starts with upper traps, middle traps, and lower traps. Anytime you're doing shrugs, you're bringing your shoulder up to your neck basically. You're going to be working only this part. Think of it as a line right here. Only this part of the trap is going to be primarily hit over these. Like I'd say about 80% here and then like 10 and 10. But then anytime you're doing any type of rowing movement, the middle and the lower traps are going to be involved heavily, but a little bit of the upper traps. So like let's say 20% here, but a whole lot right here. And this also works hand in hand with the rhomboids. So now we're on to the whole back. Like I said, the traps work hand in hand with the rhomboids, but we have the traps, the rhomboids, the rear delt, the infraspiratus, I can never pronounce that word, teres major and minor, latissimus dorsis or lats, and spinal erectors. So I'm gonna go through each one of them and their functions of it. This is by far the most complicated muscle group because there's like a bunch of them and you can target them each in a different way. So like I said, rowing movement is going to incorporate the traps, the rhomboids, the infraspiratus, don't ask me how to pronounce that, and the teres major and minor, slightly on the teres major and minor. But anytime you are doing latissimus dorsis or lat movement, you are going to be working the teres minor and major heavily. So the teres minor and major work with the lats, and the rear delts work with the whole back. Any type of rowing movement, you are going to be working the rear delts. That goes with lats and back. And to train the spinal erectors, it's a movement that causes you to bring your back up without using your legs. So anytime I'm hinged over like this and I'm bringing myself up, I'm using my spinal erectors to keep my back flat and lifted up. Lifting up is mainly, of course, the lower back, but that is the main responsibility. So as if I have my back rounded, what is straightening out my back is my spinal erectors. That's the main muscle that pulls it all. And to get them bigger, I actually recommend doing deadlifts. You don't have to do deadlifts like whole deadlifts. You can do the partial ones that you have it up on the squat rack, and you have the safety rails right here, and you're starting off right here, right there. That's if you don't want to go from the floor all the way up to the top. That's perfectly fine. But just think of using your back. Don't go heavy on this, please. That's how you mess up your back. Go to a moderate load, a load that you can do for 8 times without a belt. Once you start adding a belt to it, obviously you can do much more loads. But if you don't have a belt, do deadlifts with light load and just think of using your back. It's really easy to just use your back because like just grabbing it with my back. Don't use your leg as much. And then from there we're gonna go into the shoulders. So as you can tell, there is a lot of different fibers of the shoulder. So there's like little groups of it. There's actually 21 of it, 21 groups, 20 small little groups of muscles in the shoulder. I couldn't find the picture that separates them all and shows them, but there are about 21. So that's why when you do this and you see a little dent in my shoulder, it's not perfectly round, is because of that. Because I've been hitting shoulders straight forward, straight to the side, and straight back. Now is when I'm starting to do a little bit to in between. So I'm gonna go right here, which is hitting my front and lateral head. So what it's actually going to be doing is hitting a little bit more of this. So as with the back, I'm in between my lateral head and my rear delt to develop that cut right there to make it a whole that looks like one big shoulder, not different parts. And like I said, front delts, side delts, and rear delts. Anytime you're doing any type of pushing movement, your front delts are going to be activated and working. Anytime you're doing any type of side raising movement, I'm picking something up and I'm bringing it up, you're going to be using your side delts. Anytime you're doing any type of rowing movement, you're going to be doing your rear delts. I highly recommend spamming side delts because there's really little to none exercises that incorporate the lateral head. So anytime you have shoulder days, spam it. I preferably do the cable lateral side raises because it's a continuous tension all throughout the range of motion. So let's say with a dumbbell, I'm going to grab a dumbbell and I'm going to put it in front of me. I have no tension at all here. The tension starts about right here, and peak tension is right here. So why would I want peak tension all the way up here when I can have it all throughout this entire motions, and I can have an eccentric part of the exercise and create more muscle growth through that and muscle mind connections. So in general, hypertrophy speaking, the cable lateral side raises are better for muscle growth because you can create more muscle growth and there's tension all throughout the entire range of motion. And I actually recommend putting it at about wrist height. So if my arm is straight right here, I'm going to put it at that height. I'm not going to put it at the floor because your lateral head creates maximum tension at 90 degrees. So at 90 degrees, it is being stretched, and that's what you want. You want a stretch. So you can stretch it out a little bit more here and do side lateral raises. For rear delts, any type of rear delt fly, you can do cable rear delt if you can handle some of the weight, because on some cable machines the weight is a little heavy to start with for some people. So develop into it, don't go straight into it. You can do the crossbody ones that you grab the opposite cable with the opposite hand and you're going to bring them across your body, but that's going to target more scapular. You can also do one on the chest fly machine. You're doing it in reverse as a chest fly, or you can do what I am doing right now, that I'm going on the bench, I'm grabbing some light dumbbells and I'm sitting down on the bench and I'm putting my chest on my legs. So think of me being bent over like that, so my back is facing the roof and I'm raising them to the side like that, and that is an insane rear delt exercise that I really haven't heard of much people talk about, but I found it out and it was amazing, so I recommend that. And now we're into arms. So for the bicep, we have 3 heads. We have the long head, the short head, and the brachialis. And the brachialis is connected to the brachioradialis, which is this big forearm muscle right here that crosses over the elbow joint. So anytime you have a neutral grip, my fist is pointing like this, the hole in my hand is pointing up to the sky, I'm going to be hitting brachialis. So as when my fist is like this, completely pronated. So the long head is kind of complicated because the long head activates better in this wrist position, but you might feel some brachialis in this position and some short head. So what I recommend is going into preacher curls and using the easy bar to really create that muscle mind connection, and use the part of the bar that is angled in this way, not grabbing it like this, because that's gonna hit brachialis. Like I said, you're grabbing it at that angle. That's gonna create a little bit more muscle mind connection, so you can start to feel your long head. So by far, the greatest exercise for the bicep is the preacher curl. It is insane the amount of growth that you get from the preacher curls compared to other exercises. But if I had to choose 2 exercises, I would do preacher curls and cable ones. So I'm grabbing a cable attachment that's a straight bar, or an easy bar attachment, or ropes, and I'm doing those. Why? Because like I said, with the shoulders, it has consistent tension all throughout the entire motion. So down here, I have those 30 pounds. Up here, I have those 30 pounds. It is a complete range of motion with complete intensity. Now with the preacher curl, is that you're isolating the arms completely. You cannot use any other muscle doing preacher curls because it is completely isolated, and that's something that the cable ones don't have, because I can easily shrug my way up, I can easily do this, do that, I can move my way, and you do that unconsciously because your body is always trying to use bigger muscles to complete an exercise. So preacher curls by far are the best for muscle growth on the long head, short head, and brachialis. For the short head, anytime you are doing a curl and your pinky is supinated, so you are trying to bring your pinky to the other side, bring it up as much as you can. As you can tell, is going to activate the short head. So anytime you want to hit the short head, which contributes to more of width, you're going to be supinating your arm as much as you can. Anytime you're doing back exercises, your brachialis is being worked a lot. So I'm not telling you to not do hammer curls or stuff like that. Is that it's not something that you really have to worry about. It's a very well developed muscle if you hit back hard. Now with the triceps we have 3 heads: long head, lateral head, and medial head. You don't have to worry so much about the medial head, and there literally is like no exercise for the medial head because it works hand in hand with both of these. It works with the lateral head just as much as it works with the long head. So you don't have to worry about the medial head. The lateral head is used in all pressing movements. In almost all pressing movements, you're going to be using the lateral head. The long head is only activated when your arm is in front of, when your elbow is in front of you or above you. Why? Because it's being stretched in this position. On the top, it's being stretched. If I go like this, that's stretching my tricep. I cannot stretch my tricep like this because it is a muscle that crosses 2 joints, the elbow and the shoulder. The lateral doesn't cross 2 joints. So in a lot of pressing movements, you're going to feel your lateral head. But if you want to hit the long head, I recommend doing straight bar push downs with your elbows in front of you, and you're gonna feel very good contraction on this exercise. So as overhead extensions. Overhead extensions are going to be primarily hitting the long head. To hit the lateral head, rope extensions or pushing movements with the easy bar laying down. The long head is kind of complicated and is in a hot spot in the fitness community right now because they're like, oh, blah, 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 the long head doesn't work, the long head does work. And I'm being honest, you cannot isolate one of these heads. Any type of exercise that you're going to be doing triceps, you're going to be hitting all 3 heads, with some being obviously hitting more than the other. But variety of the time, I'd say like 99% of the time, you're going to be hitting all 3 heads at the same time. Now, the forearm, as you can tell, this has a whole lot of freaking muscles, but we're going to group them. By far, the biggest muscle in the single biggest muscle in the entire forearm is the brachioradialis, which is connected to the brachialis that's up here. And we're just going to group it for inside of the forearm and outside of the forearm. Anytime you're doing a wrist curling movement and you're bringing your wrist into you, it's going to be working the inside of your forearm. Anytime you're doing something that's you're bringing it outside, you're bending your wrist up, it's going to be working the outside of your forearm. And those gripping machines that you grab a grip and you squeeze it, that's not going to exactly grow your forearm. It's more going to create more grip strength because you gotta remember there's a whole lot of muscles inside the forearm too. So what grips are really doing is creating more grip strength and training those inside the forearm. Yes, obviously you are going to gain some muscle mass because it's under your skin and it's like any other muscle can grow. So it might make your forearm bigger, might not. I prefer to just go with wrist curls because that is the main purpose of these muscles on the outside of the forearm. Now the chest has 3 heads: upper, middle, and lower. When you're doing upper chest, you're going to be hitting these 2 heads too. They don't just deactivate, they work with it too. So don't think you can isolate the upper head, but you can isolate the middle and lower pec. By isolating, I mean you're hitting like upper pec like 5%. Like it's like very little what you're hitting when you're doing middle and lower pec. But when you're hitting upper pec, you're actually hitting like 50%, and the rest goes to these 2. So my personal preference and what I've experienced through the time that I have been working out with chest is dumbbell variation of dumbbell press. I feel a lot more in my middle pec. Like it's insane the amount of tension and stretch I feel in just my middle pec, because the right way to bench is to bring the bar to your lower pec about nipple height right there, and that is obviously going to activate the lower pec a lot. And if you see a lot of videos, people of hitting PRs and stuff, they all have a crazy arch, and that arch hits the lower pec. So if you're trying to go the middle pec, I recommend going with dumbbells or something that allows you to go into an insanely deep stretch like the dumbbells to hit the middle pec. And for the lower, it's any type of decline movement. So decline, flat, incline. Now, what I want you to understand is I don't want you to have a crazy arch in your pressing movements. Yes, create an arch, because creating an arch pops out your chest more and incorporates your chest more over your triceps and helps isolate it a little bit. But the problem is that, let's say I'm doing an incline barbell press, Smith machine, whatever. If I incline like this, the bar is right here. What am I hitting? I'm going to be hitting my middle pec. But if I keep my back against the bench and I rotate my shoulders back, which is obviously going to cause a little bit of an arch, I'm going to be hitting my upper pec a lot more, and I'm still getting that pop-up chest and everything else. So I'm not telling you to not arch, but I'm not telling you to arch all the time. I want you to just think about retracting your shoulders, and that's going to really help isolate and create that muscle mind connection to whichever head you're trying to hit. So the abdominals, we have the obliques, which are the side ones, and the rectus, which is these main six-pack muscles that you're seeing. So anytime you are going to round your back, you're going to be using your upper abs. A great, amazing exercise for it, which is a little sus, is the one that you have the bar above you and you are going down. That's going to be hitting almost all upper. But anytime you are bringing your legs towards you or you're doing a sit-up, that's going to be working all lower. So like I was saying, if I'm going to do this, that's all the upper abs. But if I'm going to do this, where I'm bringing myself up, that's going to work my lower abs. Yes, I'm still rounding my back to get up, but it's working mainly the lower abs. So anytime you're doing those dead hang ab ones that you're bringing your knees into your body, that's going to be working primarily the lower abs. Now, the quads. The quads has three main heads: the medial, the lateral, and the femoris. The femoris is the only muscle that is connected to two joints, the knee and the hip. So anytime you're in a stretch that you're stretching, so let's think of it like this. I have my knee up, I'm going to stretch like this. I'm going to think of going flat. My femoral is being stretched, but in this position, it is not being stretched. So if you are trying to grow this muscle, leg extension is going to be an amazing workout. But be sure to lean back so you get that stretch in the femoris. With the legs, they all work together. You don't have to worry about going one more than the other. If obviously one is lagging more than the other, then yes, you could do it. The way you could do it is by going on a leg press, for example, and let's say I want to hit my lateral. As I'm going down, I'm going to bring my knees out a lot more. And if I want to train my medial, I'm going to bring my knees in. Same as with the leg extension. If I want to train my medial, I'm going to point my toes outwards. If I want to work my lateral, I'm going to point my toes inwards. But just be a freaking normal human being and just put your foot straight, and you're going to work all of them equally. They're going to all grow equally. Now, the hamstring has 4 heads to it. No idea how to say them, and I will not try to say them. But what I want you guys to really focus on is the bicep femoris. The bicep femoris is only responsible for doing this. See that little... It's responsible for bending the knee like that. Something that RDLs don't do. Yes, you on RDLs, you're going to have your legs straight and butt as far back as you possibly can. You're going to feel the same stretch there. But the problem with that is that it doesn't work that because it's not bending the knee, which is the main purpose of the bicep femoris. So that's why leg curls have such a high degree of muscle growth, because doing RDLs, yes, you are going to grow these insanely, but you're missing out on a whole muscle that's this one right here. So leg curls are known to be the best because you can go into the deepest stretch controllably. Now RDLs, yes, you can control it, but the heavier you go, the more strain you're going to have on your lower back if you're doing barbell. But again, that is the main purpose. And if you want to hit your hamstrings over your glutes on RDLs, think of having your legs as straight as you can and your butt as far back as you can. So my legs are straight. If I want to hit the glutes, slight bend on my legs, and I'm hinging on my butt, and I'm hinging my butt right there. Now the glutes, I couldn't find a picture that shows them split up and what they actually are, but they actually kind of are just one big muscle, but you can hit one over the other. So for the upper glutes, they're going to work more in the sense of, let's say example, a back extension. Anytime I'm extending my back like that, your upper glutes are going to work more. So as with the cable ones, the cable kickbacks, I'm going like that because I'm raising my leg up. Anytime I'm raising my leg up, your upper glute is going to work more than your lower glute. Anytime you're squatting though, it's going to work the lower glute. And the hip thrust works all of them equally, and it is the best activator for the glutes, but that does not mean it is the best rower. And to hit the side glutes, that's like right here, you're gonna want to do kickbacks with that extended over there. So I'm doing it back and out. It's gonna work the upper and side glutes. So as the banded ones, the banded sits down that you're splitting your legs like that, that's working a lot of upper glutes and side glutes. And now we have the calves. The calves are considered two big muscles, and the Achilles and another muscle right here that stands on the outside. So they, like the quads, they grow equally. If you want to grow one over the other, you're going to want to point your toes outwards. Outwards, you're going to work more of the inside one. So this one. If you want to grow the outside one, you point your toes inwards. And the soleus muscle is a tricky one to build, but it is more of angling and it's going to work a lot more here. And I should recommend training this muscle because with me, sometimes when I back squat, I feel this muscle tighten up for some reason. I don't know why it gets tight. It's not that it hurts, it's just like my body. And a little bonus for my guys out there, neck width attributes to more of a masculine appeal. If you want to get a bigger neck, these are going to be the muscles that you are going to want to worry about. And it's very simple to grow these. So like I said, I'm going to go on a bench and have my head off of the bench, and I'm going to curl my entire neck. Start off with a stretch because you might freaking cramp this up. Stretch it out a little bit and then curl your neck. Full range of motion. Now if you want to train these muscles right here that are right under the jaw, you're just going to go like this. Motion. And then as it gets easier, you're going to start to add weight onto your head. That's going to grow them even more. And your neck grows relatively fast because your neck is used a lot throughout the day. So